again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. Hope all of you are doing really well today, doing fabulous here because I get to show you something new and fabulous. Yes, this is the Interlocking Crochet Bargello stitch. It is a lot of fun. It's a little bit tricky to get used to, but once you get over that hump, once you get over the learning curve, it is easy, breezy, beautiful, and it is double-sided. Yes, sirree. Yep, it looks just as good on the front side as it does on the opposite side. And it is a really, really fascinating way to create a nice and thick and squishy fabric with two colors at the same time and create some really interesting optics. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm going to walk you through it. So basically, in a nutshell, we're doing 2 layers of fillet stitching at the same time. Basically, we're going to be working with a dominant color, which is this sort of blue-gray, and then we're going to be working with a passive color also. And each row is worked twice. So it's once with the dominant color, then once with the passive color. Then you turn your work. Then once with the dominant, once with the passive, then you turn your work again. So each row is essentially worked twice, okay? And believe it or not, if you go based on that, this is only a 2-row repeat. But since you work each row twice, you could also construe it as a 4-row repeat. To each their own, whichever you prefer. And because we're working 2 separate layers, we then also go around the entire thing to create a nice sort of sealed edge as well. And I'm going to walk you through that as well. And for this particular piece, for my dominant color, I used Lion Brand's Pound of Love. By the way, this video is not sponsored, but I like to let you know what it is that I use in case if you want to duplicate the results. Now, I did this entire scarf and still had tons left over. The specs, it's 1,020 yards, medium weight of 4, and the colorway is Waterfall. Absolutely. Well, Waterfall or Cascade. Either way, it's really pretty. It's very, very pretty. And that's the sort of bluish color that we have going on. And then for the more taupe color, used Sugar Cookie again. Used this one recently with the Virus Meets Granny Kaleidoscope blanket, and I thought this would be nice for this too. You could use really whatever kind of yarn that you want. However, I would strongly recommend highly contrasting colors so that the design really pops. Okay? Also, that being said, even though this is a weight of 4, I wanted this to have a really nice flowy drape, so I used a size J, which is a 6mm size crochet hook. You can, of course, use whatever works best for you. That being said, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Okay, so base chain. Well, basically, it's based on the number of boxes that we are going to be using for our fillet. Now, that being said, you are going to need a multiple of 4 boxes. Now, because I want to be thorough, and because I want to give you a sufficient example of how to do this technique, I'm going to be doing a total of 16 boxes for the base of the fillet, okay? So it just needs to be a multiple of 4 boxes. Now, to get that multiple, I decided on 16 boxes. So 16 times 2 is 32. 32 plus an additional 4. You gotta add the additional 4 is 36. So I've got 36 chains here, okay? You can have whatever multiple of, 4 boxes that you want. If you wanted, say, 12 boxes, okay, 12 times 2 is 24, plus an additional 4 is 28. So you do 28 chains. So whatever, however many boxes or, blocks that you want, it is that number times 2 plus 4. Okay, and that is how you come up with your base chain. So really you could make this as wide or as narrow as you want to. For my scarf here, it was a total of 16 boxes in width, and I think that for a scarf, I could have even done this a little bit more narrow because this is very, very thick and very warm. I could have done 12 instead of the 16, but that's what we're going to be doing for today's piece because, like I said, I want to be nice and thorough. So, that being said, I have my 36 chains here. Whatever multiple of 4 you want to do, just remember it would be the number of boxes times 2 plus an additional 4, and that is your base chain. Okay? All right. So, come up with your base chain and meet back up with me, and we'll get started. Okay, before we get started with our dominant color, the passive color, it's going to be slightly smaller than the dominant color. It's going to be 1 box less, okay? This may not make sense now, but it will later. Trust the process, okay? So because this one's going to be 16 blocks wide, like I said, that's 16 times 2 plus 4, and that is 36. This one, it needs to be 1 block less, so that would be 15 times 2, which is 30, plus 4 is 34. So it's just 2 chains less for the passive color than the dominant color. I'm going to scoot you to the side because we're not going to deal with you just yet. No. We're just going to be working with the 1 for now. And we're going to create the basis for the fillet. And for simplicity's sake, I'm going to be referring to this as color A. Color A will be the dominant color. Color B will be the passive color, or recessive, or what have you. So, to do the first row of the fillet, we're going to go into the 6th chain from the hook. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for a nice clean edge, I suggest going into the back bump of the chain with your first double crochet. And we will be crocheting over this later, so it's really not a deal breaker, but I would recommend it. So that is our first block. To continue on, chain 1, skip a chain, going into the next with a double, and do this all the way across until, in my case, we have 16 blocks. I'll get there. For me, this is actually the most fiddly aspect of the project, going into that back bump. I don't know about you, but it's always a bit of an Achilles heel for me. Don't worry, the next one I'll do off camera. There we go. So it's just a matter of chaining 1, skipping a chain, and then going into that next chain with a double. Now the reason why I decided to start doing this technique is because I've been looking into colorway, and somebody suggested tapestry or mosaic crochet. I think it was mosaic crochet, and I do have my eye on that as well, but this really, really appealed to me, especially because you can use some nice tall double crochet stitches, and you get a really cool design on the front as well as on the back. And I tell you, it has the most delightful texture. And in spite of it being thick, it does have a really, really soft and lovely drape to it. So if you're looking for a way to make a really nice, warm, soft, squishy blanket, this would be absolutely ideal. Okay, so we just have a couple more to go. And we are getting there. And then one more. Yeah, right into that last back chain bump. I almost had it. There we go. Okay, so if I calculated correctly, I should have a total of 16 blocks, or eyelets. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to do my color B off camera, and then we shall get actually started in with the whole process and technique of doing the interlocking. All right, I will see you shortly. Alrighty. Because each row is essentially worked twice, I'm going to, for simplicity's sake, going to be referring to the rows as row like 1A, row 1B, row 2A, row 2B, etc., etc. So for row 1A, well, we have to get things established. Now, we have here, as you can see, this is our dominant color. This is color A, this is color B, and we've got 16 blocks here. We have 15 blocks here. And for making this a little bit easier, I'm actually going to tie these two together at the tails so that they are not going anywhere. Now you want to do this a little bit loosely, not too tightly, because you're going to want to undo this knot later. But I find that it does help, okay? And then we get on with the fun stuff. Now, because color A is 1 block bigger than color B, when we put them on top of each other, they are going to be slightly offset, okay? And this will make more sense later. Now, as we're working, when we're working with color A, we're only going to be doing our stitches in the color A stitches, okay? Now, I'm going to be referring to in the front and in the back. If we're going to be doing a front stitch, well, then it's just working color A in the top of each of these stitches in the front. If it's in the back, well, then we're going to be going around the back through the mesh and going into the top of the stitch of the corresponding color. We're not going to be going around the post like a front post double crochet. We are going to be going into the top of the stitch. It's just a matter of going whether we're going through the mesh or staying on the front side, okay? I know this sounds a little bit convoluted and complex, but like I said, once you get past the initial hump, it's really not that bad. Also, what I would strongly suggest is that don't try to do this technique for the first time at the same time that you're watching me do it, okay? I would strongly suggest watch me do it at least once, perhaps even twice, then perhaps try to do it with me. Otherwise, you might very well get a little bit lost and frustrated, and I don't want to do that to you. So let's get started in with row 1A. Okay, so gonna start off, this is right after we did the mesh, gonna chain up 3. That's gonna give us the height of a double crochet as well as a chain space. Now, lining these up, well, there are easier things in this world, I know, but we can do this. So the first 2 doubles are just going to be front doubles. So with the color A, just going into the top of the next 2 stitches, easy peasy, not a big deal. So just doing 2 regular doubles. So double into that first stitch, chain 1, and double into the next stitch. Okay, and let me just get myself situated here. Now, chain 1. Now we're going to be doing some back stitches, okay, which means we have to go through the mesh, and going to be going through the third box of the back mesh, okay. So you can also pull it apart and see we're going to be going through the third box of the back mesh. So yarn over through the back, grab the stitch in the front, pull it to the back, and finish your double crochet. Now, right now, yes, this is going to seem very odd, very awkward, and very fiddly, but once you have some actual fabric established, this is so much easier, okay? So we're going to be doing 2 more of these back stitches. So chain 1, go through the next square of the back, grab the stitch of the front, pull it to the back, and finish your double. Chain 1 and do 1 more, yarn over through that next square, through the back, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, and double. Okay. And there you go. And then we're going to do a front. Fronts are easy. The backs, well, that can be a little bit tricky, I know, but like I said, I'm going to be doing lots of repetition for you. So chain 1. So we just went into this one, so into the next one, do a front. There we are. Chain 1. Now, going to be skipping this next block, going into the next. Going in through the back. And then we're going to be doing our double. So grab, pull it to the back, and finish the double. Chain 1, 2 more backs. So going in through the back mesh, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, finish the double, chain 1, yarn over, go in through the back mesh, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, finish the double. Okay. Chain 1, do a front stitch, chain 1, then 3 backs once again, but of course we need to skip one of the back squares. So going into that next one, through the back, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, double, chain 1, yarn over, through the back, grab your stitch, pull it to the back, finish your double, chain 1, yarn over, through the back, grab your stitch, pull it to the back, finish your double, chain 1, And we started with technically 3 doubles in the front. We have to finish with 3 in the front. So we already did our chain 1. Get you out of the way. Thank you. So these next 2 are going to be in the front, and then the last one is just going to go into the chain space. Chain 1, double in the front, chain 1, and then, yeah, right into the chain space is where we're going to do our finishing block. So, quick recap. Okay, so for row 1A, we chain up 3, we do 2 fronts, then 3 backs, 1 front, 3 backs, 1 front, 3 backs, and then finish with 3 fronts. Okay, now if you turn it over, looks very different. But it will make sense. Trust me, I know that this seems probably very alien to a lot of you, and I respect that because it took a while for me to get used to it, believe you me, but eventually I did, and then once it clicked, it was like magic. So again, trust the process, okay? I will be doing repeats. So right now we're going to hop on over to row 1B, yes, 1B, and then we're going to do so on and so forth, right? Okay, so I'm sorry, I get a little tongue-tied. So let's continue on with row 1B. Okay. Okay, so for row 1B, going to work with our passive recessive color. So again, got to start off with that chaining up of 3. Turn the work. Okay, so now we're going to be working again with, front and back, going through the front mesh as needs be. And we're actually going to start with 2 fronts. Okay, so we did our chaining up of 3, and then so these next 2 stitches are going to be pulled through to the front. Now, it's going to seem a little bit weird at first, but you'll get the hang of it. Practice, 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 practice. So after yarning over, going to go in through the mesh and grab the stitch, grab that next stitch, and pull it through to the front and do your double. So it pokes through to the front. Chain 1. Do the same thing with the next one. Now, you don't have to, however works best for you. Me, personally, I find that it's easy enough for me to just yarn over and find the stitch through the front-facing mesh and just go in and grab it and pull it to the front and do my double. So those are our 2 fronts. And for this row, we're going to be alternating 2 front, 2 back, 2 front, 2 back, etc. until the end. Okay. So chain 1, then we do 2 back. So to do that, okay, we have to go through the back and grab the stitch and pull it to the back. This is where, it all becomes sort of woven together. Chain 1, go in through the back, grab that stitch, pull it to the back. Chain 1, then 2 in the front. And again, we're just working into the stitches of the same color mesh. And again, we're just going to the top of the stitches. We're not doing post stitches. So we did one front. We need to do another front after chaining one to the front, chain one, and then two to the back. So through that mesh, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, and double, chain one, yarn over, grab that stitch, pull it to the back, and before I go any further, let me turn this around and show you what we're doing on the other side, because both sides are working simultaneously. So this is how it's going to look on the other side. Give you an idea. But really, I would suggest only focus and or worry on one side, the one side that you're currently working on at a time. Don't stress yourself. Life is full of pressures. Don't add to it. Chain one. So we did two to the back. So now we need to do two to the front. So go into the top of that stitch and pull it to the front. Chain one, next stitch, pull it to the front, chain one, next two to the back. So going in through the mesh, grab that stitch, pull it to the back, chain one, next stitch, going in through the mesh, grab that stitch, I almost had it, grab that stitch, pull it to the back, and double. Okay, and so we started off with two in the front and then our last stitch, and that's how we have to finish off. So next two in the front, and as you can see, we have 3 more stitches to work, which is good. It means I did it correctly. Okay, so 2 in the front. So grabbing from the front, double, chain 1, through the front, double, chain 1, and then the last stitch, sort of flop this over and do your last double into the chain space of that last stitch and chain up 3. All right, and that, my dears, that is the end of row 1B. So at this point, your piece should look something like this. Now, obviously, it doesn't look like much, I know, but this is early days still. And then this is the finished appearance of the back for now. You know, we're getting there, you know, baby steps. Okay, so we shall proceed on to row 2A. All right, row 2A, we already chained up our 3 for our A color. Turn the work. Now, this next part may not seem like much, but it is actually very important. You want to make sure that the front facing color is always in front of the back color. Okay, so color B is right now sort of the dominant color for this row. So this tail end, it needs to be in front. Okay, you don't have to worry about it, but it does need to be in front. We will deal with color B for row 2B, or not 2B, But right now we are working with color A, but B needs to be in front. You don't want to have them crossing over each other. Okay, that being said, going to do our first double in this first double right here in the back. And then chain one. Then we can scoot you back where you belong. Okay. Then going to be doing, basically it's going to be front, back, front, back, front, back, front, back, all the way across, if I'm not mistaken. So going to be doing our next one in the front. Chain one, next one in the back. Around the back, grab that top of that stitch, pull it to the back, turn your work if you find it helps. There we go. See, almost had it, but I dropped it. There we go. See, even I have issues. Okay, and chain one, then one to the front. Chain one, one to the back, chain one, one to the front, chain one, one to the back, chain one, one to the front, chain one, one to the back, chain one and one to the front, chain one, one to the back, chain one, one to the front, chain one, one to the back, chain one, one to the front. Actually, you know, before I go further, I want to show you something that has happened to me, and I have made this mistake before. When I'm doing some of my stitches, I would sometimes go in through the front and grab the yarn like this and finish my stitch. You don't want to do that, and I'll show you why. Because if you lock them together, not only are you, it looks right from this side, sure, but when you turn it over, you're also grabbing it from the opposite side as well. You don't want to do that. You want to leave them open, you know, to let the other color shine through, because as you can see, it's supposed to have sort of a bridge effect. The bridge is open, or the bridge is out, so you don't want to encapsulate the other color mesh. You either want to go in front of or behind. You don't want to go on top of. So I think that that is something I'm glad I was able to show you, because yes, I have made that mistake myself, and then I've had to frog out some work, which is no fun. So chain one, and then to the front. There we go. Chain one. To the back. Chain one, and then last stitch in that eyelet there. Okay, so that was row 2A. So your piece should look something like this. Now again, yes, I realize it looks a little bit weird, but it's early days still. And then the back side should look like this. Okay? All right, so let's continue on with row 2B. Okay, so row 2B, going to be working with our light color, our B color once again. Get myself situated here. And I already chained up 3 from the end of the last row, so we are all set to go. Okay, now going to be going in increments of 2 and 2, 2 front, 2 back, 2 front, 2 back, 2 front, 2 back, etc., etc. So we already did our chaining up 3, so these 2 are going to be in the front. So it's this one right here. To the front, chain 1, next one to the front, chain 1, next 2 to the back, through the mesh, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, finish that double, chain 1, to the back, going through the mesh, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1, 2 to the front, grab it from the front, chain 1, through the front, grab it, chain 1, 2 to the back, from the back, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, chain 1, to the back, chain 1, 2 to the front, that's 1 and chain 1, next one to the front. Don't think I quite grabbed that correctly. There we go. Chain 1, 2 to the back, there we go, 2 to the front, and you can scoot your stitches around so that you can find them easier, nothing wrong with that. And we are at the last stitch, so chain 1, going into that space of that last stitch, and there you are. So that is the end of row 2B, and your piece should now look something like this. It's sort of like a bunch of T's and H's, or T's and upside down Y's at the moment on this side. Now this is the quote-unquote wrong side, or the passive side. The right side, or the dominant side, which is the one that I prefer, is more of the Bargello side, at least at the moment, but they will both look just as gorgeous after we have ourselves a bit more established. That being said, I'm going to continue on with row 3A and 3B. Okie dokie. So row 3A, we're going to be working with the dominant color and just making sure that the dominant color is in the front and that the recessive color is in fact in the back. Okay. And I already chained up 3 and going to be working my first double into that first stitch right there. Chain 1 and the next one as well in the front. Get ourselves situated and started, and then we're going to be doing front back front back front back front back over and over again. So chain 1. We already did our front, so we got to go into the back. So into the back. Chain 1 into the front. Sometimes the stitches like to hide, so if you turn your work so that you can see that you're going into the stitch and then pull it to the front, make it behave. There we go. So we did our front, back, front, chain 1, then 1 in the back. Through that mesh, grab it, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1 to the front, chain 1 to the back, chain 1 to the front, chain 1 to the back, chain 1 to the front, chain 1 to the back, chain 1 to the front, chain 1 to the back, chain 1 to the front, chain 1, and well, we're already in the front, and we started off with a total of 3 in the front, technically speaking. So we're going to end with 3 in the front, technically speaking. So we already have 1. We'll do these other 2 in the front. So in the front, chain 1, and then right into that chain space in the front. And that is the end of row 3A. We're getting there. It's looking pretty snazzy, I think. What do you think? I think. Therefore, I am. Let's continue on with row 3B. Okie dokie. So, row 3B, working from that back mesh that we got going on here, and going into that first double. If you turn the work, you can see it's this stitch that I'm referring to, and going to be doing 2 fronts, then 2 backs, 2 fronts, 2 backs, all the way across. So we're skipping this first one and going to go through the front, grab it, pull it to the front, and double, chain 1. Next one is to the front. I only grabbed 1 loop there. Got to grab both. Pull it to the front. There we are. So we got our 2 fronts, chain 1, and then 2 to the back. Through the back, grab that stitch, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1, through the back, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1, yarn over, 2 to the front. Chain 1 in the front, chain 1, 2 to the back, round the back, grab that stitch, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1, through the back, grab the stitch, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1, next 2 to the front. Chain 1 to the front, chain 1, 2 to the back, round the back, grab it, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1, round the back, grab it, pull it to the back, and double, chain 1, next 2 to the front. Chain 1, grab it, pull it to the front, chain 1, and then the last one going into that chain space with your final double, and chain up 3. And there you go. That is the end of row 3B. So again, quick recap. Your piece should look something like this. And that's the back side. All right, there you go. Ta-da! Okay, so row 4A. Now, we have our passive color facing us, but we're going to be working with color A first. So this, it does need to be in the front, but it's out of the way. We always work with the dominant color first. And then we work with the passive color. And I will get this. There we go. Okay, so the first double is behind in that first stitch right there. There we go. Then we can flop our work to the front, chain 1, and we're going to be doing front, back, front, back, front, back, over and over again. So this is the one that we just did in the back. Then we do a front, chain 1, and then to the back, chain 1, to the front, chain 1, to the back, chain 1, to the front. I'll get there. There we go. Chain 1, to the back, chain 1, to the front, chain 1, to the back, and so on and so forth until we reach the end of the row. Now, a thing about color, I would strongly suggest, even though using black would be very dynamic looking. I think it would be very, very difficult to work with, at least initially, until you get used to the technique. So I would not suggest any exceedingly dark colors when you are first learning this. I would suggest go with light and mid-tones. Just a personal suggestion. You know I'm full of suggestions, and that just happens to be one of them. Also, I think an ombre, a slow color changing ombre might look nice, but a variegated, I think it would look way too busy, and you would lose the trees for the forest, so to speak. So solids, I think, would work best for this particular piece. And then we end off with 2 in the back. And there you go. So that's the end of row 4A. So you can see we've got some repetition going on here. Yes, we do. And then this is the back side. And it's good to examine your work from time to time to make sure that you didn't make a mistake somewhere along the way. But hey, it's looking good. Looking good. All right, so let's move on to row 4B. Okay, so row 4B, we have our light colored here, and going to begin with 2 in the front, then 2 in the back, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, etc., etc., all the way across. So going in to the front, grabbing, and double, there we go, chain 1, another one to the front, chain 1, then 2 to the back. Through that mesh, grab it, yank it to the back. Chain 1, grab it, through the mesh to the back, double, chain 1, then 2 to the front. Between you and me, I like the front ones a little bit better. It's a little bit easier, but that's how I am with front and back post double crochets as well. So I did 1, I need to do another one to the front. Chain 1, then 2 to the back. Around the back through that mesh, grab that stitch, pull it to the back. Chain 1, yarn over through the mesh, pull the stitch to the back, double, chain 1, 2 to the front. Chain 1, another one to the front, chain 1, 2 to the back, chain 1, another one to the back, chain 1, 2 to the front, and last but certainly not least, chain 1 and double in that last chain space for your final box. And there you go. And that, my dears, is the end of row 4B. And there you go. Looking so pretty already. That's the back. There you go. So yeah, you just keep on keeping on, repeating rows 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B for as long as you want your project to be. Now, I am going to continue this, but not in this video. I will explain more. Alrighty, my dears, so that is going to conclude the first part of this tutorial. obviously, I really hope that you like it, and if you do, please give a little thumbs up button down below. You know that I appreciate your appreciation as always. Now, I would like to do another part to doing this tutorial because I would like to do another repeat or two, because I totally get it. It can definitely appear to be a bit daunting. I understand that. So I would like to do perhaps a couple more repeats with you guys, and then I would like to spend some time explaining how you can create this really nice joined edge. It looks very pretty, very finished, and this also has its own sort of set of rules as well. So I wanted to take my time with it, so that is what we're going to do in part 2 of this video. So again, thank you so very much for watching. Hope you're enjoying it. And you know what to do until next time, right? I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and please stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now, everybody, and have a great day.